Hello and welcome to Daddy Dimes Radio, episode 3. And let's just dive right on into it.
Actually, we have to take a quick pause. I will be right back, guys. Give us just a second here to get prepared, then we'll be right into it, all right? All right, Levi, are you now ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's go ahead and get into it.
We will be starting off with NBA hot takes. Our first hot take: the Boston Celtics are a top 5 Eastern Conference team. Ethan, do you agree or disagree?
I have to disagree with this one, even though I watched them play against the Lakers and I was very impressed because they didn't even have Jaylen Brown. It was LeBron's first game back. They have a 9-8 record, but they're in a tough division. And top 5, I just think is too extreme for this Celtics team. I think they've declined a lot.
Yeah, I have disagreed down too. I believe what you said there. Moving on to number 2. Miles Bridges wins most improved.
I agree with this one because I've always believed in him. I've always believed in him because he was at Michigan State, so I got to watch him play a lot. But he has expanded from a really solid, talented role player on the Hornets to a star caliber player and contending with Gordon Hayward for that second guy behind LaMelo Ball.
Yeah, his stats have greatly improved, and I believe he will win most improved.
Yeah. Our third hot take, the Cavaliers are a playoff team.
I do not agree with this because I believe they will be pushed out for the last few spots in the playoffs.
Yeah, same. I think if you go look through their schedule, they have some good wins. They're 9-8, but they just don't have that superstar. And nowadays, you need to have at least one, most likely 2 all-star caliber players, and they don't even have one right now.
Moving on to number 4, Curry doesn't win MVP. Do you agree or disagree?
I disagree with this one. Curry, I think he was second in MVP voting last year behind Jokic, and Jokic is probably the second one right now behind Curry, but Curry is playing so good. Of course, we can't predict the future, but if we had to take the best guess, it's Steph Curry.
Yeah, I believe he's the best player in the NBA right now. He's been playing so well, and I believe he will win MVP.
Really carrying the Warriors to the best record in the NBA.
Moving on to number 5, Zion averages under 20 points when he returns.
Yeah, this one might be a little controversial, but I agree with this one. The Pelicans are 3, and I think they're 3-15 right now. And I don't know how Brandon Ingram is doing, but the Pelicans, they'll probably rest Zion quite a bit and kind of tank, and they won't give Zion as much playing time. He's gained a lot of weight. He might not even be as good when he's on the court. So, yeah, I think last year he averaged 27, but this year I think he's under 20.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, Brandon Ingram, I did check. He is averaging 22 points per game, but Zion's their franchise guy. I think they're going to protect him even more.
Yeah, moving on to number 6, Talen Horton-Tucker is more important to Lakers than AD or Russ.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Taylor Horton Tucker, but I think this is a little bit of an overreaction. For quite a few months now, people have been projecting his breakout, seeing how good of a player he is, and he's finally breaking out. But he didn't play well against the Celtics. And AD is just such a big part of that team. Now, Taylor Horton Tucker he might be important than Russell Westbrook, but we won't get into that because I think AD is definitely more important than him.
Yeah, AD, he's just so important for his defensive ability because
Yeah,
the Lakers' defense definitely not one of the best in the NBA.
no, not at all. And you saw that against the Celtics. But our next one, this one is a little bit wild, but we put it on here. The Suns will play the Heat in the NBA Finals.
I say no.
Yeah, yeah, I say no as well. The Suns on this massive win streak beat the Mavs this week, but the Heat against the Nets, the Heat are really really good. Don't get me wrong, but against the Nets, I just don't think they're as good, especially with Kevin Durant. If he plays as well in the playoffs as he did last year. And then even the Suns will have a big challenge with the Warriors in their Western Conference.
Moving on to number 8. The Hawks don't make top 6 Eastern Conference playoff spot.
I have to disagree with this one. I think they'll make a late push. Similar to last year, they kind of started off slow like they are now. But they're such a talented team. They're really young, but they got experience by making it all the way to the Eastern Conference semifinals last year.
I have to disagree with you on that one. I believe that they won't make it. I think they'll be a really good contender for it, but I don't believe they'll make it.
Then our final hot take here are the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have a much better record than you would expect. Are they a top 10 Western Conference team, which would put them in the playoff, kind of mini playoff to get into the playoff?
I believe they are because I just think they'll gain a lot of momentum. I just kind of think it's coming.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they don't have as much star power as some other teams, but Josh Giddey, the rookie, and Lou Dort have really been playing well. Lou Dort really starting to break out. I just think they have a well-built roster.
Yeah, and that's the end for NBA hot takes. And now for our weekly recap for the NBA. The Celtics beat Lakers and who were led by Tatum.
The Hornets knocked off the Pacers by 3 points. LaMelo almost had a triple-double.
The Suns beat Mavs twice.
Yeah, that was pretty big for the Suns. I think they were both without Devin Booker. Now the Mavs, of course, were without Luka, so that makes it a less important win. Then the Miami Heat beat the Wizards by quite a bit. I expected that to be a real close game, but the Heat got the job done.
Maxey leads 76ers to dominant win over Nuggets.
Yeah, Tyrese Maxey having a great sophomore season, of course. Late first-round pick last year out of Kentucky. But then we go ahead and get in. Hornets beat the Wizards in a big-time divisional game. The Hornets, Wizards, and the Heat all looking like they have a chance to win that number 1 spot in their division here over in the Southeast.
The Blazers beat the Bulls by 5.
Steph Curry and the Warriors dominated the Nets. Again, a huge game from Steph, putting him in that MVP position.
Trey drops 40 on Bucks en route to win.
Yeah, that was a kind of a surprising win, but of course the Bucks have been disappointing. And then the Hornets win a big game versus the Warriors, kind of stopping the Warriors' big winning spree.
Moving on to NCAA football. our reactions to yesterday. Ohio State blows out Michigan State. CJ Stroud almost locked for Heisman.
Yeah, I mean, I expected Ohio State to win, even though, of course, I'm rooting for Michigan State, but that was a huge win. The Ohio State offense continues to impress. They've got so many weapons, and CJ Stroud continuing to look like the favorite for Heisman. But I don't know, because Bryce Young, he threw for 559 yards and 5 touchdowns yesterday as Bama beat Arkansas by just 7 points. Bryce Young accounting for all of Alabama's touchdowns. So that's
Utah blows out Oregon.
Yep, that was surprising. Supposed to be a close game, but not a blowout. I'm kind of disappointed in Oregon.
Yeah.
Utah will definitely move up in the rankings quite a bit, and Oregon probably out of the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Cincinnati and Michigan, respectively, dominate SMU and Maryland in what were supposed to be big games to see if these two strong teams could overcome some hurdles and not lose, and they got the job done.
Notre Dame destroys Georgia Tech 55-0.
Yeah, Notre Dame continuing to make their push for the college football playoff as their only loss is to Cincinnati. Then there are some key Big 12 games as there's 3 teams that are kind of competing to win that Big 12 title. Baylor beat Kansas State. Oklahoma beat Iowa State by a touchdown. And Oklahoma State left Texas Tech scoreless in their win. What are your thoughts on those games?
Yeah, Oklahoma State left Texas Tech scoreless, beating them there. And Oklahoma, they just barely beat them. Good game.
Yeah, of course, we love Kansas State. How do you feel about that Baylor win over K-State? Were you impressed by Baylor or not?
I think Baylor played well. I'm still mad about the dropped punt in the first quarter.
Yeah, by K-State.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Baylor, their defense really impressed me, and their defense has been good all year. Really helped them in their big win over Oklahoma last week. So,
moving on. Who should be in college football playoff picture?
personally, I think Georgia's the lock for number 1. Then Alabama at number 2, Ohio State at 3, and Cincinnati at 4 in the college football playoff right now. And then right outside, it's Notre Dame at 5, and then Michigan at number 6.
Yeah, I have the exact same thing, except I have Michigan and Notre Dame switched around.
Okay.
Where Michigan's at 5, Notre Dame at 6.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think the top 4 teams are pretty easy right now. Because Cincinnati, we'll definitely learn a lot between the Michigan Ohio State game, but Cincinnati did beat Notre Dame earlier. That's why they get the edge over them. And then predicting through the playoffs with this top 4 I have right now, I think Georgia will beat Cincinnati, and Ohio State will upset Alabama, putting Georgia and Ohio State in the championship. And then Georgia versus Ohio State. That's a tough one because Ohio State's offense is so good, but Georgia's defense is so good. I have to take Georgia.
Yeah, I agree with what you said there with Georgia's defense and Ohio State's dominant offense.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a new segment called GOAT Team, where we will be figuring out the GOAT of every single position of a different sport. And if you don't know what GOAT it's an acronym that stands for greatest of all time. And today we will be doing MLB GOAT Team.
Yeah, so I created a little GOAT team. In left field, I have Ted Williams, maybe the greatest hitter of all time. Center fielder, Willie Mays, who I think is the best baseball player of all time. Right field, Hank Aaron. Of course, broke Babe Ruth's home run record to have it broke by Barry Bonds. And we're not including people. I did not include people in this list that use steroids, so you won't find Barry Bonds on this list. Honus Wagner at shortstop, the oldest player on this list. Then Roger Hornsby at second. Lou Gehrig, the Yankee with Babe Ruth, at first. At DH, Lou's teammate, Babe Ruth. And then at third base, our own Kansas City Royal, George Brett.
Yeah, a lot of names there, and I agree with probably all of them.
Yeah. Who's the most recent player? Would it be George Brett? So, yeah. Not really anybody too recent on there.
Yeah, let's move on to NFL predictions. The games are just about to start soon.
Yeah, about 10 minutes away.
So let's get through these predictions. Packers versus Vikings.
I've got the Green Bay Packers, just a better team than the Vikings, I think.
Yeah, totally agree there. With Aaron Rodgers back from COVID last week, I believe he got back last week.
Yep.
The Packers and Devontae Adams is back, right?
Yeah, he's back. I think.
Yeah, so the Packers at pretty much full strength with those two guys back, and I think they'll beat the Vikings.
Yeah. Next up, we got the Eagles versus the Saints. There's a lot of good games this week, including this one. I've got the Eagles.
I have the opposite of you. I have the Saints. I think it'll be a really good game, but I think the Saints will pull out.
Yeah, the Saints, like I said last week, they're just a 50-50 team. You never know what you're going to get. And so are the Eagles. This is kind of an even matchup, and I think the Eagles are due for a win.
The Panthers versus the Washington football team. Who do you have winning that one?
I have the Carolina Panthers. I'm really liking Cam Newton. He got the starting nod this week. Probably knows the playbook a little bit better. And Washington coming up against that big win over Tampa. But I'm a believer in Cam Newton, and I think Carolina is going to win.
I think that Washington will win coming off that big win, and I believe that they will just pull out of the Panthers.
Yeah, it's a battle between two great defensive lines. Both these teams really good defensive lines. The Washington is down Chase Young.
Moving on, Raiders versus Bengals.
I took the Cincinnati Bengals. They started off so hot, and then I was really liking the look of their team with Jamar Chase. And then they've cooled down a bit, but the Raiders, good record, but not as good of a team. Offensively, they have some weapons, but they're weak. Defensively, same thing, some weapons, but they're weak. I think Bengals will win.
Yeah, I agree with you with that one there. The Raiders, they're kind of overrated in my opinion.
Yeah, I do think most people understand, if they understand football, that they're not that good of a team. They just have a good record.
Yeah.
In our final matchup, the biggest game of the week, with one everybody's looking forward to. You know we wouldn't leave it off. Cowboys versus Chiefs. Who you got?
I have the Cowboys winning this one. The Chiefs not playing like their Super Bowl winning selves. Patrick Mahomes not at his full potential. And the Cowboys really doing well in a possible Super Bowl candidate.
Yeah,
I have the Cowboys winning.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Chiefs, they looked more like their last year's selves against the Raiders last week. Looked real good. But the Cowboys, the Chiefs have a bad defense. The Cowboys have one of the best offensive in the NFL. It should be a shootout. If the Chiefs offense plays well, it'll be a shootout. But Dallas should win this.
Yeah, moving on. Is Cam Newton real?
I think he is because, honestly, I don't know why he wasn't signed earlier. Sam Darnold's struggling so much. PJ Walker is a solid backup, but Cam Newton is so much better than Sam Darnold. I think he helps your team so much. A little bit underrated when he was unsigned. He's a huge upgrade, like I said, and he's getting the starting nod, so he'll get more snaps, so he'll get more used to the offense. This week will show us, I think, if he's for real or not. So I think he is, but I can't say for sure yet.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just think I believe he will be a good quarterback, but just never as good as he was.
Yeah, I mean, he's an MVP winner, but he's quite a few years removed from that.
Yeah. And our final thing for this stream, are these teams in trouble after upsets?
Yeah,
First up,
a lot of upsets
Buccaneers.
last week. The Buccaneers, I don't think they're in trouble because last year they were 11-5, didn't have the best record in the regular season, but they won the Super Bowl. I predict them to maybe not win the Super Bowl, but be similar. It's a Tom Brady special. Just do good, but not great in the regular season, and then be the greatest quarterback of all time in the playoffs.
Yeah, I have them as I just believe they're not in trouble. They're a really good team, and I think it'll just be like an upset, and they'll just keep on going.
Yeah. Next up, the Arizona Cardinals, after losing to the Panthers and Cam Newton's kind of breakout where he had 2 touchdowns on really his only snaps. But I don't think they're in trouble because they had Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins out. They've proved to be a very talented team this year. I really like the Cardinals.
Yeah, I agree with you there. They didn't have those 2 players during the upset, and I think they'll just keep on going.
Yeah. Next up, the Baltimore Ravens, after losing to one of the worst teams in the NFL, the Miami Dolphins.
I say no, they're not in trouble. That was like a tough decision for me because they could go either way.
Yeah, I have to strongly disagree with you, actually, because I think the Ravens are in trouble. Lamar Jackson is still probably the best quarterback in the NFL right now, but they need someone to help him out. We thought that would be Rashad Bateman, but that just hasn't been it yet. Lamar has been carrying the Ravens so far, and I think he could only carry them so far against the Dolphins.
Yeah, moving on to the Browns.
They're definitely in trouble. They've been in trouble all year since they started losing games. Baker Mayfield went out. They lose OBJ, which is still probably good for the future of the team, but leaves them with one of the worst passing games in the NFL. They still have one of the best running games. I don't know if Nick Chubb is back, but when he is healthy, they have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but their passing game is so bad.
Yeah, the Browns, they are 100% in trouble. They've been in trouble all year, like you said, and they're still in it.
Yeah. Then lastly, to finish up our episode 3 of Daddy Dimes Radio, the Steelers they tied the Detroit Lions, but the Lions have the worst record in the NFL. They're the only winless team. Do you think the Steelers are in trouble?
I believe they are tying with the Lions. That's pretty sad.
Yeah. I think that, yes, they are definitely in trouble. They had impressed me because they started getting on a winning streak, winning some games, getting a better record, but they're in a tough division that you can't afford to tie games against or lose games against teams as bad as the Lions.
Yeah, you just can't tie or lose to the Lions. And well, that is it for Daddy Dimes Radio, episode 3. And signing off till next week. See ya.